happens quietly. No arguments, no warnings, no dramatic farewell message, just silence. One day they're there, laughing with friends, replying instantly, sharing random thoughts, memes, and late-night jokes. And the next, nothing. The screen stays dark. The messages go unanswered. Their name no longer pops up in your notifications. You scroll through the old chats, still there, frozen in time, and wonder when it all started to fade. You check their profile, half expecting a new post or story, but it's like they've vanished, as if they never existed online at all. People start whispering. What happened to them? Are they okay? Did someone say something? But the truth is, no one really knows. Sometimes even they don't fully know why they pulled away. They just felt a switch flip inside. That sudden urge to disconnect, to breathe, to stop performing. Because when someone suddenly stops talking to everyone, it's not always about anger or drama. Sometimes it's not about anyone else at all. It's about exhaustion, a kind of invisible tiredness that doesn't show on the face but burns inside the soul. A weight that words can't lift anymore. They've been showing up every day, smiling, replying, pretending, even when they felt empty. They've been carrying silent battles no one noticed. And then one day their mind whispers, enough. That's when they vanish, not to punish the world, but to protect themselves from it. Because silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's overflowing with thoughts that never found words, with emotions that no one would understand even if they tried. They reach a point where every conversation feels forced. Every laugh feels fake. Every notification feels like noise. So they stop. They shut the door. They let the world spin without them for a while. It's like their brain presses pause. They need to stop responding, not because they don't care, but because they're drowning in too many feelings that have no name. And in that silence, they finally start hearing themselves again. The world may call it disappearing, but to them it's survival. A desperate, quiet way of saying, I just need to breathe again. When someone goes silent, the world assumes they're doing nothing. But inside, it's chaos. It's not quiet at all. It's a storm of thoughts colliding, emotions unraveling, memories replaying on loop. It's every word they couldn't say echoing back in their own mind. They replay old conversations, overthink every small thing they said, every silence they left too long. They wonder who noticed their absence and who didn't. They tell themselves they're fine, but even that feels like a lie. You see, silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's processing. It's sitting with everything you've been running from. And when they finally step away from the constant noise of people and screens, they start to see things differently. The masks, the small talk, the endless pressure to be okay, all of it starts to feel heavy. Because the truth is, staying connected all the time comes with a cost. You start losing touch with the person you actually are. You start living for responses instead of reasons, and the ones who suddenly stop talking, they sense this. They feel when the noise gets too loud to think clearly. They feel when every message becomes another performance, another version of themselves they don't even recognize. So, they step back. They turn off their notifications. They disappear into the kind of silence that doesn't ask for anything in return. And in that silence, they start remembering the small things. The way real laughter feels, the peace of sitting alone without needing to explain it, the beauty of not being available to everyone all the time. People call it ghosting. But it's not always that simple. It's not about pride or anger or ego. It's about self-preservation. Because when you've been strong for too long, when you've been the listener, the helper, the one holding everyone else together, there comes a moment when even a message notification feels like too much. That's when they vanish. Not into loneliness, but into quiet recovery. The kind that doesn't look dramatic on the outside, but feels like breathing again on the inside. They're not hiding from the world. They're just trying to find the strength to face it again. At some point, silence stops being a reaction and becomes a shield. It's not about avoiding people anymore. It's about protecting peace that feels too fragile to risk losing again. When someone suddenly stops talking to everyone, it's rarely random. Something inside them has quietly reached its limit. It's like their emotional system triggered an emergency shutdown. Because when you've been constantly available, constantly absorbing the energy of others, it starts to drain something vital inside you.
You stop feeling like yourself.
You start talking less, smiling less, until even the smallest interaction feels like weight. So, they choose silence, not because they hate people, but because they finally realize not everyone deserves access to their mind. Silence becomes their boundary, their way of saying, I need space without having to explain it. And in a world obsessed with constant connection, that kind of boundary feels almost rebellious. But here's the strange part. The more they disconnect, the more they start to see clearly. They see how much of their energy went into pleasing others, how often they said, I'm fine when they weren't, how every conversation became a way of maintaining an image, not expressing a truth. And for once, they stop performing. They stop replying out of obligation. They stop trying to keep every friendship alive just because they're supposed to. It's not coldness, it's clarity, because when you've spent too long giving, silence is the only way to refill yourself. Psychologists call this emotional withdrawal, a self-regulation process where your mind isolates to heal. It's how the brain protects itself from overstimulation, from emotional burnout, from people who don't even realize they're draining you. And in that stillness, something shifts. They begin to understand that not every message needs a reply, not every invitation deserves a yes, not every silence needs to be broken. They start to feel peace, and real peace, not because the world got quieter, but because they stopped letting it control their inner volume. People might call them distant, mysterious, detached, but that's only because the world fears what it can't read. And people who choose silence, though they're unreadable by design, they've learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. At first, the silence feels strange, uncomfortable, like walking into an empty room where the echoes of your old life still linger. You catch yourself reaching for your phone, just to feel something. But there's nothing new. No messages, no notifications, no noise to drown in, and that's when the stillness starts to work. Because the thing about solitude is, it doesn't heal you instantly. It humbles you first. You start hearing everything you've been avoiding, the memories you buried, the pain you never processed, the voice inside your head that you silenced just to keep up with everyone else. In that quiet, you finally meet yourself again. Not the version you show online, not the one that always smiles for others, but the one that's raw, tired, real. It's uncomfortable, but it's also the first honest moment you've had in years. People think solitude is about being alone, but real solitude isn't loneliness. It's confrontation. It's when your mind holds up a mirror and says, this is what you've become, and this is what you've been running from. But slowly, something begins to shift. The silence that once felt like a void starts to feel like space. Space to breathe, to think, to simply exist without performance. You begin to notice the details that life used to blur. The way morning light slides across your wall, the rhythm of your own breathing, the strange comfort of doing nothing yet feeling complete. You realize you're not disappearing from the world. You're reappearing to yourself, because solitude, real solitude, isn't a prison. It's a rebirth. A quiet one, the kind of transformation that doesn't announce itself with noise but whispers through stillness. And one day, without even realizing it, you start to feel lighter. Not because everything's perfect, but because you've stopped trying to control what isn't. You stop needing validation. You stop chasing attention. You stop performing for an audience that was never really watching. And that's when healing begins. Not in noise, not in crowds, but in the calm silence that finally feels like home. And then one day, you wake up and realize you don't feel as heavy anymore. The quiet that once felt like a weight now feels like air. You breathe easier. You move slower. You start noticing how peaceful the world can be when you stop trying to shout over it. You step outside, not because you're ready to perform again, but because you want to feel the sun. You walk, not to meet anyone, but to remember what it feels like to exist beyond your thoughts, and it hits you. This is what peace actually looks like. Not smiling all the time, not pretending to have it together, but simply being okay with where you are and who you've become. The people who once wondered why you disappeared might still not understand. They'll think you just drifted away, moved on, or lost interest. But you'll know the truth. You didn't vanish. You evolved. You stopped explaining your silence because silence no longer felt like something to explain. You stopped chasing people who only heard you when you were loud. You stopped needing to be seen to know that you exist. That's the thing about people who suddenly stop talking. They don't come back the same. They come back softer, calmer, more grounded. They learn that not every thought deserves to be posted. Not every emotion needs to be shared. Some things are meant to stay sacred, between you, your heart, and the quiet. And when you finally do speak again, your words sound different. They carry weight. They come from peace, not pain. From awareness, not anxiety. You realize you were never running from people. You were running back to yourself, and this time, you don't need anyone to notice that you've changed. You feel it. In the calmness of your mornings, in the slowness of your thoughts, in the softness of your presence. So if anyone asks, why did you stop talking for a while? You just smile, because you finally understand that not everything needs to be said. Some things are meant to be lived.